Hey, I'm Bill Rice, and I help founders and startups build go-to-market strategies so you can focus on building exceptional products and services. Today, I want to talk to you about 10 startup marketing strategies that I personally use and advise every one of you to try. So let's get into it. Number one, this is probably the most important advice I could give you, and that is simply to do it longer than it feels natural, it feels comfortable, because initially all of this works in this kind of like non-linear fashion where it just bumbles along and then all of a sudden you have a hockey stick. So how do you get there longer? You got to break it down. You got to use discipline, you got to use frequency, you got to be consistent, and then of course you've got to be patient. So one of the best advice that I heard from a founder and a successful entrepreneur was he said whenever he starts a particular marketing tactic, he'll start with 100 of whatever. So that could be 100 articles, 100 videos, 100 podcasts, whatever that thing is that you're going to try. Start and give yourself that absolute 100 mark before you're going to give up and try something different. Okay, number two, create rabbit trails and rabbit holes. Whenever somebody encounters you, one of the most important things that you want to start building for your marketing and sales to work ultimately is to create impressions. And the more impressions that you create, the more times people see you, there is this kind of sort of mental, emotional thing that happens, and it connects trust and credibility to those impressions. So again, create enough content so once they see one thing, they will have somewhere to run off to and see some more and binge on your content. So again, create rabbit trails and rabbit holes. Number three, humanize. Again, one of these things that a lot of marketers leave out. They get so wrapped around sort of marketing theory or something they've been taught in college, or maybe even something they've seen on a video or some blog article, but they forget to put a little human into whatever that marketing tactic is. Here, we're talking about personality. So if you are a fast talker, go ahead and be a fast talker. If you're slow and methodical and thoughtful about the way you get out ideas, go ahead and use that. If you curse, curse. Whatever that person is going to encounter when they actually encounter you or would encounter you one-on-one, face-to-face at a conference, I like to use that in my mind. It's just like, hey, if you were to run into them at a conference, what would they experience? Go ahead and put that out into the world. And of course, the best way to do that is video, because you really get to see who someone is. You can do a little bit of that. You can feel sort of voice and tone in articles, but ultimately, I love every one of my entrepreneurs and founders to get to video, because there's no better way to put full transparency and humanizing your brand, your product, and your service that you're offering. Number four, this may sound counterintuitive, but constrain yourself. There's a common phrase that you probably heard before: the riches are in the niches. And this is really important, because when you start to constrain yourself, one, it will be more achievable. You won't get kind of spread all over the map. But the other thing that's really important, especially as you go into these marketing channels and the modern digital marketing channels, the consumer's mind, attention, eyeballs are scattered all over the place. So if you don't have something very specific and deep that defines you, that you're saying over and over again, that you're approaching from every which way and different angle and creating that density, that thing that you're known for, you're probably going to easily be forgettable. So make sure that you're constraining yourself. That'll make it easier for you to create that notable brand that you're starting to try to achieve. Number five, and I probably should have led with this one, but think about who your who is, or sometimes we call it the ideal customer profile or the ideal customer avatar. Put a very specific person in your mind, someone that you're going to be able to help with your solution or scenarios that you solve with your product and service. And then go ahead and mention them by name. Could be a role, could be a type of person in an organization. It could be a particular scenario that your customer potentially would be working on. So make that ideal customer profile very well defined and name it in your content, so people know when they hear it, that person is talking to me, and it'll really resonate and strike and get their attention. Hey, if you want to focus on building your product and leave the demand generation to us, I would love for you to come visit me at billricestrategy.com, where we do exactly that. We let you build the product, we let you build your team, your business, and then we can help with the demand generation. So come visit me at billricestrategy.com. All right, let's get to number six. I want to cut out the boring parts. A lot of times, and I personally am really guilty of this, because I've always been one that likes to go deep on any topic that I'm learning about or thinking about. And when I'm trying to explain it to someone, I feel like they should know every little facet and every little sort of situation that might happen. But at the end of the day, usually someone who's learning about your product or your idea that's driving that product or service, they just need to understand at the highest level the basic steps so that they can start to get a grasp around it. If you go too deep or you start wandering into too much depth and caveats and all those sorts of things, they won't understand what they really need to take away and walk away with. So boy, this is a big struggle for me. So I encourage you, take whatever you want to communicate and then chop it up into one, maybe two or three points, not the 15 that you can think about because of your enormous body of experience. Number 7, think in terms of problems and solutions. This is actually one of the ways that helps me to simplify the message. I try to think in terms of use cases or particular scenarios, and this allows me to shape most of my content in, hey, you might have this problem, and here's a potential way to solve it, and this ultimately is what it will do for you. The other thing, that third part helps you to do, again, a very good marketing best practice is to focus on the benefits, not necessarily the features of what you're trying to explain to your audience. Number 8, learn to ideate. This, again, is sort of a secret weapon. If you can just learn to train your mind to think about your product and services in the context of the world and potentially spot patterns that you can help with, or patterns that you're starting to see over and over again with the people that you're talking with, the customers, the prospects, this will create tons and tons of content ideas. Make lists, write prompts. This is kind of an AI thing, but it's become kind of my new way to write down ideas. Instead of just writing a list of ideas, which used to be in the form of kind of like topics or titles, I'm now actually writing in terms of prompts, something that I might write to AI, like how would I create a sustainable marketing strategy? Or what is the first strategy that I should use as a founder? Or what is the most effective way for a founder to get their new product into the market? Or what is the best way to create a go-to-market plan? Again, all of those are more in terms of a prompt that I might hand AI versus just the topic of an article. And I think a lot of consumers and potential prospects are starting to kind of think like that and using search engines in a similar way. And then, of course, search for your channel, right? So when you're ideating, try to get in the channels that potentially you will use so that you can start to become comfortable and you can get ideas from the type of content that's actually coming into this. Great place that I like to hang out is Reddit. The actual customer is in that subreddit and they're asking all kinds of great questions. So figure out a channel that you're interested in and sort of lurk around there looking for opportunities that create ideas that ultimately can create content. Number 9, a Spark file. I think this is super important. This is where I actually store all of those ideas. And I've got a video where I go much deeper into what a Spark file is, but in the simplest form, it's a place for you to capture things. I personally use Notion. It could be a notebook. It could be Apple Notes, something that's easy to get that information in there. And then the reason I use Notion is because I think it's really important to have it in a place, in my case, the Notion database, where I can kind of mix and match and organize on the fly so they can discover like patterns. A lot of people like Obsidian for the same reasons, but ultimately have a place where everything goes. And when you're ready to create content, you open up that file, that database, and that's where you get your information and just go to work. Number 10, create a content machine. So as I talked about Spark files and ideating, you kind of heard a little bit of that content machine, but I encourage you to systematize that. You can check out this video here where I talk about creating a content machine, but really turning that into a system where you can repeat that workflow over and over again. And if you're enjoying this and you've watched this to this point, I encourage you to get other lead generation tactics from me by liking and subscribing to this channel. And I look forward to seeing you on my next lead generation video.